Welcome back to Chit Chalk Chat Sessions. This session is dedicated to my God, my creators, my mother and father. Stay tuned. First of all, mother, father, thank you for everything, especially taking the time it will take to hear this session where similar to the situation Wayne and Rachel and I are in, which you both know about because you have seen that video. That's my final words. So this session perhaps may be my final words with you. A couple days ago, my father was cooking spaghetti in his kitchen. And, well, he had sauce boiling on the stove. And I tasted it. Kind of tasted like ragu. So I just asked, is this ragu or Prego? And he's like, oh, it's this brand I got from Trader Joe's. And then he asked me if I liked it. And I was like, yeah, I like Prego. I'm a Prego guy. I love Malcolm Gladwell's explanation of Prego versus ragu, which I know my father and mother won't understand the reference to that, which is essentially how I feel when I say our, I mean the parent-child connection we will always have. Now, I am an adult. I can think and speak and act and behave like an adult. I can also act, behave, speak, understand like a child. And when I was a child, you were always the best teachers I ever had. And I know there are a lot more lessons in you both to teach us. And when I say us, I mean Wayne, Rachel, Asher, and definitely me. Now, you, Father, have told me that you know I am the blue frog. You tell Charles to do this, he'll do something else. You tell him not to do this, then he'll do that. Right? That's what you told me when I asked you, why wouldn't you let me play football? And you told me, why did I do comedy? And how is that different from me asking you if I could play? You told me if I really wanted to play football, I would have found a way to play football. Just like I found a way to do comedy. To which that tells me you recognize that, yeah, Charles, if he really wants something, then he's going to do whatever he does to get that. Drugs or whatever Don Quixote windmill he's chasing. And I remember that Don Quixote windmill. But going back to the spaghetti, this was when my father, I recognized about my father, had some lesson to share with me, which began with the story behind Trader Joe's, which only began because I guess I asked the right questions to get him to open up to this story. This is the master sensei. Game. So, okay, I thought, all right, here's a new level I'm playing. Sit here and listen. Now, when I listen, I ask a lot of questions. I always do it. I don't know why people tell me to stop asking questions when they're telling me a story. I feel that after 40 years of knowing me, somebody should know that Charles asks a lot of questions, so I have to tell a story in a way where he just has no questions to ask. That was the little hint I give people. Just if you, at 40 years old, I have gotten to a point where, like, I tell everybody, it's like baseball. In every situation, you come up to bat, you and I interact. I give everybody a 4-ball or 3-strike rule, where if I tell you, hey, just that's bothering me, or just that, and then you just keep doing it or something, I'll consider that a foul. A strike would be something where I'm flooring the gas pedal, trying to tell you if somebody doesn't stop talking, I'm not going to slow down. To which people just tell me, you are trying to kill me. To which I reply, sure. If you don't hear what I'm telling you, that I am really upset, okay? And then I tell you I am really upset by stepping on the gas pedal and speeding the car until it hits well over the speed limit, and you're yelling at me, telling me, slow down, let me out of the car. To which I reply, then shut up. Or stop talking about this, or correct yourself, okay, in this conversation, because you are on strike 2 at this point. And yes, if you hit strike 3, I would have probably wanted to drive us into another car or something like that if I was 10 years younger. But I'm not like that, Father. I know how to drive at that speed. I know how scary people get. But now I have your attention. And this is where, forgive my voice, this is just a lot of passion. Father,
the words that you speak to me in English, perhaps, maybe that's where the flavor is coming off differently. But when you tell me that story of Trader Joe and how his son and his father had a vineyard and made wine, and his son invented box wine, and he patented the idea for box wine from his father's vineyard, right? And so then you tell me after that Coca-Cola comes in, and this is where you had to Google the story, right? And I'm just like asking you these questions, and then and this was before you came up to bat with me, and I was just asking questions, and you just got frustrated just telling me, stop asking all these, let me, blah, 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 blah. And again, I'm not making fun of you. This is my blanket imitation of how you guys act when I hear it. It's like Charlie Brown listening to his teacher. Wah, 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 wah. It's not to offend you. It's just I don't want to offend you by speaking the words that you are speaking that I'm hearing, okay? So, like I said, if this is going to be our last words together, I have to be perfectly honest with you, Father and Mother. Mother, you have already heard this brunt of the story, and I put a lot of the judgment on you, the wife of the father, to which the son is pleading with his mother to explain to his father that all he wants is, and I'm sorry, I acted the way I acted, and it got to the point that it got to the point. And then we can continue with our relationship. Just like when I came back home after I dropped Dad off at the shopping center and came back, and you asked me why I was back, and I told you because Dad, and I got into it again. And then you and I started getting into it, and I kept telling you all I want is that I'm sorry. If you guys knew the Bible, I could tell you I felt like Job, where it's just everything you're saying is not helpful at all. It just makes me more ungodly upon you by not honoring my mother, because I have to speak in language that gets her attention. I have to use the F word, and I have to say it to her, to say, listen to me. Just say, I'm sorry, Charles. Can you please just help Dad? To which Mom said, I'm sorry. And I said, thank you. And I got off. Remember, Mom? Tell Dad that. Now, Father, I don't know what Mother told you about our conversation. So this is why I feel this is very important for me to tell you directly, because all I'm trying to do is help you and maintain your health so you can grow old and watch Asher grow up as old as he can until you're gone. And in that time, I am trying to explain and reveal the plan that I had on paper, on YouTube. I played the game where I wait for you to ask me the question, and I kind of tell you, yeah, I want to be president. You know, it's just, then your next step is just, you don't ask anything about that. So then I'm thankful for that, because then I have to really ask myself, do I really want that? Do I want to play football, or do I want to do comedy? And this president thing is the comedy side, where I feel that my purpose here, everything that you've taught me through all the lessons, is to be like a monk who can just unite the world. Or so you told me that you wanted to be a monk. To which, I don't know if you know this, but on my birthday, the day I was born, a great monk died who was the 16th something and all this stuff. And there was all this controversy of who he went. I'm feeling like I'm him. This is stuff where I was just like, you want to talk about windmills, Dad? I have so much on my mind right now to where if you're only thinking about somebody in California accusing you of this ridiculous case to which I made a YouTube video addressing that, to which you probably didn't watch, and you tell me that this Trader Joe's father and his son had this thing where his son said, I can't believe you would just sell the company and my patent without a fight. Right? And when I heard that, I just heard, yeah, the father sold his son's idea. The son invented the box to hold the wine, and his dad just thought, oh yeah, well, I'll just sell it to Coca-Cola. And it's just, whatever. That's not our situation here. But when I heard that story, that was the irony that I heard. And then when I kind of just chimed back in, said something where here you are, and you had this company that you built, and your two sons just only complain about how you gave them too much. Maybe it's not the same tone I'm speaking in, or you're going to tell me I wasn't saying it like that. That's just how I hear it. You have to understand it and accept that when I tell you this is how I hear and understand this, that's how I hear and understand it. Just because you say, da-da-da-da, that's not what I'm saying, doesn't mean anything. Whatever you're saying is coming out like this. So when you're sitting here asking me to explain something again for at least the 9th time, every time we talk about this insurance issue, I have to tell you, it's already been itemized. Okay? You have no idea what's going on outside of my life dealing with this insurance company because I'm trying to take it off your plate. But now I'm going to put it back on your plate because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this relationship, okay? So yeah, if you don't ever want to see me again, and you're going to pull the method where now maybe perhaps you'll be able to see me the next time you want to see me face to face, or you allow me to see you face to face, that you will see me as a child and an adult. I'm not going to be a parent. I have no intention to become a biological parent to any kid. I have no intention right now to marry any wife or anything like that, because right now all I care about is the state of the world that my nephew Asher is going to grow up in if nobody like me stops people like you and your generation from making everything worse than it already has become. So if you can't understand that, then I would love to talk about this with you. But it has to begin with you saying, Charles, I'm sorry for the way I acted. Can we talk? That's all it takes. All it takes. One sentence. So, in witness of a candid world, this is the relationship that I have to deal with my parents. I'm sure many children have to deal with the same thing. And this is why kids now who have guidance counselors who are bound to a non-disclosure agreement to where they can't tell the parents anything that the child discusses with the guidance counselor. And parents get upset. Why? Why won't they let me talk to? Why? Why won't they tell me? And I say to those parents, why isn't the child coming to you to talk about this? And the government finally realized that and now are calling these parents domestic terrorists. You saw it with the school shooters. We all talked about it, how your kid screws up, they're gonna go after the parents. I had no idea. I did not remember that thing that Wayne situation. So I was just like, wow, they did it a long time before this. I thought this was the first time. So this is where I saw the government has this light. I can't explain to you what's going on right now because you don't want to talk to me. So like you said, if you're thinking that this is a noble gesture, that you're just making it hard and saying, I have to cut him off so that he finally has to go do what he has to do, that's a very noble thought, but that's not what's reality. I need my father. I need his guidance during these times where I'm trying to fix problems with real solutions. I need the comfort of my mother to be able to make me feel like I'm a human being, I guess, in this sense, let alone their son, okay? So now this is where, yeah, the way I've seen my brother's wife and my father's wife help their men mature and continue to grow as they grow and age in life has left me just so skeptical that that's a good thing. People just get married and they're just, yeah, all right, we're that's it. But you told me a very key factor where any woman I marry has to sign a prenuptial agreement, to which I thought that was a great idea. Why doesn't everybody sit down before they get married and write a prenuptial agreement? What are we going to do when we're married for the next 5 years? And then after that, we'll get remarried, renew our vows. That's how I'm going to get married. And every woman just hears prenuptial agreement. It's just like, ugh, you don't have any money, or what? You think this is about money? It's just. So yeah, perhaps. I don't know. I don't know what thought, but I know your health is going to deteriorate without my help. So if you truly want to see the fruits of all your work come to the time of harvest, to where you can finally sit back and say, oh yeah, finally, I'm proud of my sons. But, you know, like I said, this is a very serious matter where you just, mom can't just, if she told you, all he wants is you just say, I'm sorry for this, can we talk? Like I told her. So if she hasn't, this is why I'm telling you. It's in the witness of God that I have tried to honor my father and mother the best I can as a Christian, as a godly person, as the son that they raised me. And I don't know. I have other things I should be praying about than this, that I could directly control. I don't need any divine intervention to help my father express his emotions, share his emotions. But because my father is a traditional Korean man, that's not how he was raised. So if I make you feel question, that's good. Because you should be questioning where you're at in life. If you were your childhood version, me, and you were your father telling your son, who is me, the same thing, regardless of our situation. Would you, the little child, look at your father and say, like, what would you say? This is where the parent forgets. Parents only want to see their children grow up and get married and have kids. And I told Mom, the problem with that plan is, why can't you just say, I want to see everybody just grow up, grow old, and be happy. That's all I say to myself. God, please let everybody grow old and grow up and be happy. That's my only prayer for everybody, the whole world. It covers everybody. But every parent only wants their children to grow up and get married and blah, 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 blah. And then when they grow up and they don't get married, then, oh, what's wrong with them? It's because you already set a plan that they don't already maybe agree with. So that's why I say you're ill. If you want to say, why are you so sad that my son hasn't grown up and gotten married? It's because your son doesn't want to grow up and get married. So if that's the only thing that's going to make you happy, you're going to be sad for the rest of your life. So if that's what you're thinking and that's the real thought in your head where, yeah, you're right. I'm going to feel very foolish if I keep Charles around and I can't say I'm sorry to him like I am right now. So that's that, Dad. So now it's been said, it's been put in the cloud. You, Wayne, Rachel, Mom can respond, however, and Asher will forever be able to have this as a record of what our family tree really was like.
I just had a question on an analogy that you give sometimes in response to people who ask about why would God send someone to hell. Right. So people who watch you may be familiar with it, but the analogy essentially of a man pursuing a woman and ultimately if she doesn't want to be pursued, if he loves her, he'll let her go. Yeah. God does the same thing. If we don't want a relationship with him, he'll let us go. How would you respond to somebody who says the analogy is essentially flawed? It's more of a parent-child relationship because God knows what's best for us. Why is he punishing us when he knows what we don't know? If that makes sense, that he knows that being with him is better. And so a parent to a child, I'm going to do what's better for them, even though they may not want it. So how would you respond to somebody that wants to bring?
When I was a young boy, my parents would take me bowling, and it was a great family activity that we did together that I cherish. I still remember my dad has like the most unique signature bowling. You know, it's like the sidearm pitcher. You see my dad throw a strike down a bowling lane and you'll know exactly what I mean. But the point of this share is that one of the nights that we went bowling, I had I love air. You know, like I had this thing where I couldn't, just stay asleep, let alone fall asleep if I didn't have like a fan circulating air and blowing on me. And then like with background noise, like the minute my parents would come in and see me there sleeping with like the TV on, and then, they just like turn it off and I just wake up like, what? Like, again, my father knows what I'm talking about. But there were times when they'd always tell me like, it's wasting energy, which is what they told me when they'd come into my room. TV was off, but then I had the fan as my, my metronome to get me just meditate on something and just be able to just doze off. So essentially that's how I look at it. But there was a weird thing that my mother told me that, this was like the next phase where it's like, I get it, it's wasting power, but I'm not, I was bargaining. But then her explanation to me was that back in Korea, a bunch of kids were dying in their sleep, and they say that it was because these children were sleeping with a ceiling fan on, which took away the oxygen, and essentially they just suffocated. Like, I was just like, none of that scientifically makes sense. Like, it's circulating air. No, I'm not. But the point is, I'd always get yelled at. Just like, if we tell you to do something, do it. If we tell you not to do something, don't do it. Right? So, back to when I was a boy at the bowling alley, and I had just found like all the fans, you know, that fan to dry your hand before you stick your sweaty hand in the finger holes. I was like, ooh, you know, and I was just like so in awe with the ball return. Just like, I'd wait, I'd see my dad throw the ball, and then I'd like see it drop. And then I remember just like counting, like, oh, and then it just like come up, you know, it was just fascinating to me. And I just sit there and look at it, and my parents were bowling, you know, it was with their friends. It was like the adult thing that parents did at that time, back in like the late 80s, early 90s. And yeah, they just weren't paying attention to me like sticking my hand like in the ball return, because I was like, ooh, there's air coming out of this thing. You know? And then I just remember the ball, you know, like my hand was this hand right here. The scar is barely visible now, which is, I guess, a sign for something. But I just had my hand like this in the ball return. The ball came up, rolled over my hand, which essentially just sandwiched my little elementary school hand against the belt, which ended up just giving me, you know, like a burn. It was just a little scar. But you can imagine just probably being in that bowling alley, just hearing this little Asian boy like, and then, you know, like it was probably a scene, is all I'm saying. And the lesson that came from that began from that, was that's not my fault. You know, like my dad told me, there's a sticker right here. Do you know what this sticker says? And I was just like, no. He says, if you could read, you know, like an adult, you would know that this sticker says, don't do that. So just, that's why you gotta be smart in school. my parents were always good about just tying it back to just, that's why you gotta study hard and learn how to read these warning labels and such. But again, this was what spawned this ongoing teaching that my father always used, that I wasn't able to fully grasp and appreciate the magnitude of the wisdom that was just behind the simplicity of just asking me as a child, Charles, if you saw a cup on fire, would you touch it? And I told him, no. And he asked me, why? And I told him, because fire makes stuff hot, and I know fire and hot stuff will burn me. And you told me, Father, that that's what a burn is when I stuck my hand in the ball return. And I don't want to get burned, so I would not touch that cup. And he looked at me and said, good. Then you've learned the lesson. But, son, there are kids in your school who never stuck their hand in that ball return. And he realized that that was in American culture because parents just told him, like, don't do that. I feel like Western and Eastern child raising is just literally yin and yang. If I think in Eastern culture, you see the child, about to stick something in a socket, you're more likely to just let them do it and learn the lesson the hard way. They got to know what it feels like to get electrocuted, to get a sense of any kind of lesson, right? And then in Western culture, it's just like, don't do that. Just if you got a fork and you're just even like, it's like driving, like, look out for that tree. You mean that tree? Like, it blocks down that way. It's literally like that. But it's just a different kind of nature versus nurture process. But again, back to the burning cup. He told me that these children have parents who told them, fire, if you touch fire, if you play with fire, you get burned. And they know not to play with fire. Those are good kids. And then there are kids who play with fire, get burned, feel how painful it is to get burned, and then they say, I don't want to play with fire or touch fire again. Those are good kids, just like you. So I was just like, okay, can I have my soda? Now, fast forward into the dark ages of my history, we'll just call it, to which I just needed to smoke pot to drive out all the battles out, just constantly, like the devil and the angel, just everything I was doing, could I just shut you both up and just like relax? And that's what I would just, I guess, describe like that first moment that I smoked kind bud, and I just was like, what? This is completely different from the stuff I was given by my other friend, not my parents or anything like that. But it was just a calming, like, salvation, just peace. For the first time in my young life, my senior year of high school was when I just started smoking pot and just experimenting with all sorts of other things. And at this time, when my parents like found out and then entrusted me and then, found out it was with smoking. My dad was a smoker, and I remember when he caught me smoking cigarettes. And this is when the lesson came back with this. He caught me the first time and told me not to do it. He said, smoking's bad. Don't be like me. I can't quit. And it's just going to end up killing me, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to do that, right? And I was like, it's good. But then they caught me 2 weeks later, and then my father made me sign a contract saying, if I get caught smoking again, I give my parents consent to cane me 9 times. And if you don't know what caning is, this was back in 1990s where an American man named Michael Fay went to Singapore and was arrested for vandalizing, spray painting graffiti. And Singapore is one of the cleanest, and still is the cleanest cities. Like, people don't spit. There's no garbage on the ground. And again, this American goes to this other country, commits this crime under the assumption that he has amnesty and that he won't be punished as a Singapore citizen would be. To which this was a huge lesson in my generation's time period, where it was just like, wow, that's a crazy kind of capital punishment. To hear that that in Singapore, it's not like you go to jail. It's just, no, you go into the town square, you drop your pants, and somebody whose job it is given a stick designed to, hurt, yet not, like just like the whipping of, it was a very, it was like, in America, just a spanking on, like you get a switch. It's like that, only to, an actual, this is how that country hashes out punishment. And then if you don't learn from that, then I'm sure they throw you into some kind of internment re-education camp to get you to think straight or self-correct yourself. Now, with self-correction, when I got caught that third time and I signed that thing, and he just told me, son, you signed a contract. And he told me the 3 tips that every man must know and watch out for is the tip of his tongue, the tip of his pen, and the tip of his kochu is what we call it. Which, this was a lesson on 2 of the, I said I wasn't going to do something. I got caught, said I wouldn't do it again, signed my name in pen. And now I'm facing my next crime against my word. And so my father told me, this is the 3rd time, go to the garage and get me something to cane me with. I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember just, like this middle school kid going to the garage, and I see a baseball bat, a golf club, and a hockey stick. And I was like, where is my wiffle ball bat? And I grabbed the hockey stick. I thought that would have more resistance, and received my canings. I think I ended up just passing out after 2. But this was a moment that really created an inflection point. To which my father told me, son, there are 2 types of people. The ones who know not to touch the can without being told. The ones who touch the can on fire, get burned, and then don't touch it. Then there are people like you who are told, touched it, get burned, and just keep touching it, getting burned. Why? And it took me well into my comedy years that I said, perhaps I'm trying to create an oven mitt.
Charles Payne, thank you. You're a lot smarter on the economy than I am. Take a look.
Greetings to all of you in the language of love, the universal language. Beauty is the splendor of truth. Use your hearts for what your hearts are for. Fill them with light. Do not fill them with darkness. The light of the human heart, when it's given faith, if it were opened up, it would blind the world. May this message give us eyes with which to see, ears with which to hear, and hearts with which to love each other, to love the world, and to do good.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Charles Payne and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else. Okay, that's a high standard to compare it to.
First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one.